Here's a tutorial on cherry wine by Hozier. So first off, we're going to start with the left hand for this first page. So the way that it's written, we have our low C, so just as a reference, middle C, bass C, low C. So the way that the bass is written here, it spans a full octave with the G in the middle, which is kind of a stretch. And then going into measure 5, it comes up to the Fs, octave apart with the C in the middle. So always with a 5-2 on, F, C. But if you find that the stretch is a bit too much for you, especially when you get into trying both hands together, definitely if you only did the bottom two, the 5th on the low C, that would actually work pretty well. And then going into the next chord at 5, measure 5, F, C. So you just go between the 5ths, keeping your hand shape the same as you move up and down, because that's actually what you're going to be doing at the end of the page. So with the A, this is measure 11, F, C. So A, F on the bottom, C on the bottom. Okay, so now that we have that bass figured out, so moving on to right hand. So we're going to be alternating between G position and C position, G position, C position. So first off, if you don't want to add the little grace note there, the note with the slash, it would just be this. So remember that a grace note is like a very quick note going into the main note, which is the E, D, E. So once you feel comfortable with the positionings, then you can add the little 2-3 at the beginning of measure 2 and 4. All right, so moving on to measure 5. So from the previous measure, we're in C position. Then we have reach for the A. Here's our A skip. So again, measure 5, 4, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So the 1, 2 has a skip between. The next 2 bars, reposition 1 on C, 5, 4, little gap here, 4 between 4 and 3. Cross with the skip. So measure 5 to the end of that line, we have so probably the measure that will need a little bit more work is this measure 7. Because we have 2 skips in there between the 4 and the 3, and then 1 cross back to C. Moving on to measure 9. So we're now in C position for measure 8. So we just stay here. So that's a pretty simple part of the melody. And then going into the last 2 bars, we're going to do a slight maneuver to 2 on C. And then here's that skip with the A on the thumb. And there's that tie on the 2 on middle C for that last measure. So in slow motion, going from measure 9, rest. All right. So now adding in the bass part. So I will show you actually both ways of doing it. So I'll start with the way that it's written. So with the octave span here. And we're just going to do one line at a time. So we have so that's our first line. Moving on to measure 5, this is where we change to the Fs in the bass. Quick back to C. On to measure 9, so staying in our position from the previous measure on measure 8. So measure 9. All right, so with this measure 10 to 11, there are actually 2 position changes. So remember, this one had to go to middle C with the 2. Find your A, pinky. So I would practice that a few times, getting from here to this chord. So once you get this chord, 5th, 5th. So practicing that transition a few times, even from the last 3 eighth notes into measure 11. Getting used to the stretch and moving up this way. All right, now considering if we were to just play the bottom 2 notes of this left-hand part, so just doing fifths. So let's go over that together. So just the first line, we have this. Up to F. Staying here, still on the low C. Up to A. And then this last line repeats.